tender, aquel es 100, 200. 220.
Ah, sí, perfecto.
220. Mira, tú.
Ajá, exactly. Yeah.
Él le sabe, él construyó esa, o sea,
Okay.
él sabe, no se preocupe.
Jules is doing this all over again, mate. So like I said yesterday, red and black are hot, green is your safety, it's your earth, keeps you grounded. But I have to be very careful here because these two things here are hot. See those two things?
Yeah.
If I touch them, I'll die. So we're playing with a rattlesnake.
You are going on a run. Let's get scratching.
Make sure the brake is off, and we go. So inverter is off. We don't want mixing energy from our inverter to the electrical unit. So always ground first. That's it. Now I just flick this on. Yell if something sounds wrong.
Oh, when you hit the breakers?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll stand in
Somebody hit the light. Are you ready?
Ah! How many amps is it at the moment?
Keegan immediately regretted asking me this question because then he had to listen to me explain the relationship between volts, amps and watts for the 1000th time. We finished charging the van at the campground and decided what we should do next. Day 2 after the big accident, we're headed to Michael's house from El Coyote.
And I've been a solar electric power engineer.
Mark, his caretaker, is going to meet us there. From there, we're going to figure out what we need to get these panels back in order and test a few things out and see what we have to work with. Hopefully, get this beast back on the road before too long. We're all trying to be a team and band together and work our way through it and not get too angry or upset about things like this, because things like this happen all the time. Anything could happen on this trip, and it seems like it is happening. But yeah, anyway, we spent the morning on the beach chilling out, sending emails and trying to organize our networks so that we can move forward in the best way that we possibly can with all of the resources that we have. The other two just took off. Keegan's riding with Bia in the big Chameleon, the green van. So I'm gonna go catch them and see what we got to work with there. Situation update. We are at Michael's. We're down at his property in Vicente Guerrero, down on the coast in Baja California. This is where we've been retreated to for the last day. Yesterday we spent trying to organize our way forward and through this mess. And Bia from Verde por Dentro has been helping us organize a team of support moving forward through this. Basically our friend Poncho down here in Vicente Guerrero, who is a friend of Mauricio and another friend of ours, has a brother here who is an engineer and a welder, and he is willing to take a look at our problem and give us some space to pull out the panels and test and see what exactly it is that we need to get done. And then obviously from there onwards they have a shop and tools available to help us fix the problem need be. The big question is how much is it going to cost and how long is it going to take? But they're all questions for after we find out what the problem is to begin with. That's where we're at, crossing our fingers, hoping that we're going to sort this problem out nice and quickly and get back on the road. After arriving at the workshop, we quickly got to work unloading the panels. Having a forklift to help with this job made things a lot easier than when we had to scoop them off the side of the highway. I'm going to need help moving the panels, but the first thing is to just test, see how much is actually fucked.
And spread.
And then that's like a one tool job. Maybe I will just cut the wires and check them, but because I'll need to check them individually. But like some of them aren't bad. This one is, I would say, like one of the good ones. And there's a few cracks and scratches, but for the most part, like I think the cell is still joined together, which is what's important, is that this cell stays intact. I think what's cracked is actually just the glass, if you see that. And what I could do to that is just clean it and then put a bead of like super glue onto it. But the panel itself like isn't damaged, but like here, yeah, see even this is cracked, but it's not, the cell isn't cracked.
No?
You can see in there,
It's good.
you could clean that and it might be fine. I mean, obviously this is not good for sun penetration. Yeah, so that's copper exposed there. That joins them together. But anyway, like this was the one that landed on its face, and it got fucked. So like, if these two are fucked and that one's all right, like we can put these on the back of the van, and they can just be our secondary ones. Or maybe like 6 of them need replacing, and we can rebuild our back panels with donated panels, and the ones on top can be the ones that we can salvage. Like, I can't see why these can't be salvaged, even though it's not ideal to have scuff marks on your panels. I think in general that's probably not going to be a big deal, and we're going to find out. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just literally going to pull the panels apart a little bit, and I'm going to decide which ones to put where, and then from there onwards I will decide what we need to move onwards in full capacity, and maybe we just don't move on in full capacity. Stop it! Like, that's good, that's shit. And I'll put the shit ones together and replace plus this metal's damaged, like that metal needs to be replaced. So, like, it needs to be pulled apart. And if it's bent, maybe here. Yeah, it's a bit bent.
Pretty much anyone that's been popped out is because it's been bent.
Yeah. So if that's the case, they all need to be just dismantled. After meticulously testing each panel, it seemed that they were all functioning perfectly. It seemed too good to be true. Looking at things and I'm just like, I fucking don't know where to start. There's this shit everywhere. The panels seem to be good, which is great, but they're definitely not ideal. They're scuffed up and destroyed, but the frames are all bent. Once aluminum's bent, it's pretty hard to bend it back into place. And as it was already pretty hard and janky to get in and out. So if things are bent, it's going to make it even harder. Like you saw when we tried to pull it out on the ground, it was like very stuck. So the reason I can't do anything without the welder is to say to him, like, can you do something more simply and straight if we buy more material and all of that sort of stuff. And maybe he says, oh, it's just easy to do it with steel.
Even if it's
We use less steel, which makes it the same weight, just as strong and the same weight. So, and steel's easier to work with. So,
okay, we'll talk to him
yeah,
later.
when he comes, yeah.
And maybe the panel's out of steel and the actual just keep the frame.
And then, yeah, the frame on the roof can stay aluminum. There's nothing wrong with that. And then he can just weld that together rather than bolting it together. Definitely the top panels have to be dismantled. They're fucked. Like, the panels are fucked and well, they're not. They still work. But the panels are scuffed up and wrecked. They need to be cleaned and all of that sort of stuff and resoldered together. And the frame is just bent. It's just fucked. That's why we had to pull it off, because the panels are flicking all over the place. So they have to be dismantled, which is only 2 lots of the panels. And then there's a few other ones that are pretty bent. So I think I'm just going to leave 2 intact as an example of what was there. So when he gets here, he can see that and be like, okay, that's sort of what I've got to build if I That's what we've got to build if I solder it together, weld it together. And then the rest I'll just start dismantling. I think that's what I'll do. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Here we go, Kira's calling back. Hello?
Hey,
Can you hear me?
did you just call? I can.
I did. Yeah, I just tried to call Brett. I don't know, he might be busy doing something. But basically, I left him a long message. We got some pretty bad news. I don't know why I'm laughing. But basically, we were up in the mountains in Mexico here, and we got caught in a huge windstorm, and the entire array got ripped off the roof and scattered across the highway and everything. So yeah,
No.
I know, it's crazy. And I just thought, well,
Were you guys there? Like, you didn't put it in?
no, it was driving. We were driving. It was a huge windstorm. Like, it was crazy. It was very, very strong. We probably should
Oh,
have.
so the panels were in, and it still somehow blew it off.
Yeah, like, so what happened was the wind got underneath the array, and I forgot to put a bolt in place to hold the array down. You know how one side lifts up and one side stays down?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to put a bolt through the eyelet on one side, and the wind got underneath and just sheared all the other bolts off. It's our fault,
Oh.
and we want to make sure that no one thinks that it's Solar Roller's fault. Yeah, you know what I mean? So,
Thank you for that.
Yeah. We just wanted to
That's great.
let you guys know. Keegan was just driving and everything was fine, and then a second later he was like, what the fuck just happened? And looked back and the solar panels were...
I didn't even feel it. So the whole array got ripped off. Not just the panels, but the whole timber,
Everything.
the whole
metal,
aluminium structure.
aluminum
Exactly.
frame and everything.
Everything, yeah. And it just literally just got lifted up and just flopped onto the side of the road. Just one lift, flop, everything sheared, and it smashed. And then I didn't even feel it, but I looked in the rear view and I saw it just smashing on the side, and then was like, oh, fuck.
You know what you're going to do?
It's not good. It's definitely not good.
Obviously.
We're in a workspace at the moment. We have friends of friends of friends of friends.
Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of how Mexico works. You're just like, hey, I have this problem. They're like,
Yeah.
I have a brother. And then the brother's like, I have a friend. And then the friend's like, I have a brother. And then
Right.
you end up in
Right.
following someone down a dirt road and into a gated complex. And the hinge to the frame is
Yeah.
what gave way. And it was actually probably a good thing, because if it stayed attached, it might have just pulled the van over. Like, it might have... The wind was that strong, it might have just tipped the entire van
Crazy.
over. Yeah. So we...
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing.
Pretty-
We had the conversation earlier that day, me and Keegan. Keegan was like, oh, it's pretty windy. And we're like, yeah, it's fucking windy. The whole van all night was just like, and the panels were in. Like, they weren't out, because we just weren't thinking about that at that point in time. And then we were like,
Yeah.
should we pull the panels out in this kind of weather? Is that a decision that we'd make? And we were like, we'll just have to assess how strong it is and whatnot and pull it away if it gets too crazy. But we hadn't even gotten to that stage yet. We were driving, and this happened on the side of the road.
So,
Hey man, how you going?
dude, what's going on?
You're like, something's up. What's going on? Bad news, man. And the whole thing just went off onto the side of the road upside down. So yeah.
Voltage is one thing. You'll still get voltage if there's a break in one of the straps and one of the ribbons. You still see voltage, but amps, if you can see amps, that's what you want to see.
What amps? Because I tested the amps and I was getting 3 to 4 amps out of the panels individually.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's
'Cause
about right.
They're 330s, right, at 50 volts. So
Yeah.
that's like 6 amps, under 6 amps, a little
Yeah.
under 6 amps.
And they were flat. They weren't like angled straight at the sun, and all that.
Yeah.
So around 4 to...
Yeah. And
What would you say is like an unacceptable amperage? Like 2 or 3?
like 1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's bad, you'll see probably full or nothing, Joel.
Yeah, right.
Because if it's got a broken ribbon, it's not gonna do anything. And if it didn't, it's gonna give you full power probably. Thanks for calling.
Got
Keep in
plenty.
touch.
Yeah, no worries. All right, enjoy your lunch.
All right, Joel.
All right,
Bye.
see you, Brett. Bye. And I'm just going to explain what that is with
All the boys, all the Mexican boys have gone home, and me and Jelly are going to work into the night.
In the middle of all that, I got welder's flash.